All right. Good afternoon. Today we are going to talk about the course Banksman stroke rigger. I know you have been asking yourself about that course, the contents in that course. Uh, if I can ask, have you ever seen any banksman or a rigger anywhere? Or have you seen someone trying to give signals to the crane operator when lifting and lowering the load? Or have you ever seen some people pulling a rope when the road is being suspended? Have you ever seen some people attaching and detaching loads onto the crane hook? If yes, then we are good to go. If no, I'm very sure you have ever seen a crane anywhere. And it can be like a truck having a lifting boom or a lifting arm. Or you have ever come across any crane at any given location. But I guess by that time, you had now much knowledge about lifting. All right, let's begin. My name is Mununuzi Erisa. I'm a certified trainer, a lifting equipment inspector, a site lifting supervisor, a sub-C, site lifting supervisor. Uh, when we talk about lifting, it is all about lifting a load. Let me say in the mid-air, or suspending it or transferring it from one point to another. Okay, I know in HSE people have been telling you about manual handling, or even here at your home, you have ever tried to lift some things. Let me say you are at home, your mom or dad, your brother, your husband, your wife tells you to help him or her to shift a jerrycan of water from one point to another. That is manual handling. So that's also lifting. An activity involving lifting a load, lifting, lowering, and then suspending. All right. Yeah. Our course aims and objectives. The aims and objectives of Banksman Refresher Training Program are to recap designated personnel who have attended initial Banksman training with the knowledge and skill to perform Banksman roles effectively. I'm very sure few of you have some knowledge about lifting or about this course, Banksman stroke rigger, but some of you are totally green about lifting. Some of you have never seen a crane. Some of you have never seen a rigging accessory. Some of you, this is your first time to hear about a banksman or a crane. But I'm very sure by the end of this course, you have been able to understand what a banksman or rigger course is, and the roles of a banksman, the roles of a rigger, the roles of a signaller. All right, we begin. Learning outcomes. Upon the completion of this training, delegates must be able to explain the role of the banksman, understand the lifting operation, perform rigging and lifting operation. All right. Just as been telling you, you should be able to explain the role of the banksman, understand the lifting operation, perform rigging and the lifting operation. If we go back to the other example I gave you of lifting a jerry can or suspending it mid-air, that's the lifting operation, where it involves lifting a load from one point to another. And when you're lifting that load, still there are some things you consider. You can't lift that jerry can, let me say 20-liter jerry can, when it is far away from your body. Even if you lift it, you will try to feel some kind of like pain or difficulty in lifting other than lifting when it is near your body. So that's also lifting operation. It is like using a crane to lift a load which is just near its body, and then lifting the load and then lifting the same weight of the load at a distance, at maybe a distance. So there's almost same things are put into consideration. What is contained in this course? Lifting operations. Here we'll have to talk about regulations and safety issues. Remember, safety should always be your first priority when you are on a site or when you're on a lifting operation site. Two, the lifting loads and equipment. By the end of this, you have seen that you have understood the lifting loads of, and then the different types of lifting equipment. Now, preparing for the lift. How do you prepare the lift? How do you prepare yourself before you begin a lifting operation? By the end of this, you'll be able to understand what we are talking about. How do you execute the lift? How do you restore the work area back to the way it was? So this is our course content. Banksman role. The banksman's duties and responsibility. We'll talk about the banksman duties and responsibility, communications and visibility, rigging and slinging maintenance program. This will be under banksman law. The first one, they will be under lifting operations. We'll talk about regulation, safety issues, lifting loads and equipment, preparing for the lift, execute the lift, restoring the work area. That is under course content. Now, this course you are studying is a refresher course. It is supposed to be refreshed or to be, you are supposed to redo a training after a certain period of time. This helps you to update on your competence regarding or towards that work you are doing. When you're handling a lifting operation, you must be competent. Who is a competent person? Is a person who is skilled, who is trained, who has sufficient knowledge on how to handle and has the experience. And that person should be certified to handle a specific job or a specific activity. All right, introduction. Safety and efficient are of utmost importance when moving loads on an offshore installation. Banksman, who assists the crane operator hoist up loads. It is important that the banksman are aware of the dangers and how to deal with it. Which dangers are we talking about here? Those are hazards, safety hazards. Those things that have the potential to cause harm to you. The definition of a hazard is like something with the potential to cause harm to you is regarded and classified as a hazard. All right. The safe fastening of loads and good communication with the crane operator are an important part of this. This is an introduction. Here you have to know, in your minds, you have to understand, at least you have that image of the full course. You have to know the safe fastening of loads and good communication with the crane operator. as a banksman, stroke signaler, stroke rigger, you have to be knowing these things, such that you have to maintain a good communication with the crane operator through the right signals. Not every signal that comes is supposed to be used. No, there are those standard signals as we are going to see. All right, the regulations requirements. Now, here we are under lifting operations. Just as we saw in our course content, here we are on lifting operations. The regulations requirement. We have American Petroleum Institute. These are some of the regulations which govern lifting operation. These are different parts, like if you want, you can get it, a full copy or a PDF, you read on your own. Usually, this one will talk about API RP2C specification for offshore cranes, API RP2D recommended practice for operation and maintenance of offshore cranes, API 9A, these are wire ropes, API 9B application, care and use of wire rope for oil field service. So, these are American Petroleum Institute. This is an American Petroleum Institute standard. If you want, you can go and get these clauses out of it. It can help you to grow your experience and the competence, especially when you are handling lifting operations. We have PUA 1998, Provision and Use of Work Equipment Regulation. This regulation came into force on 5th December 1998. It was meant to cover the existing equipments, the leased equipments, and then the brand new equipments which are being bought. If you can also get this PUA 1998 from anywhere online, you get it, you read it through. But here we are majorly talking about Regulation 9 that emphasizes the training of the trainings. You need to be trained before you do another job or another activity. You need to be competent. You need to be trained and certified to handle any job. Another one is the LORA 1998. This one covers all lifting equipment, lifting operation, and lifting equipment regulations. Regulation 8. Here we focus mainly on Regulation 8, Organization of Lifting Operation. Every employer shall ensure that every lifting operation involving lifting equipment is properly planned by competent person, is appropriately supervised and carried out in a safe manner. Alright, you need to ensure that before begin any lifting operation, it should be properly planned by a competent person. And that competent person may find your lifting supervisor on site, may came up with a lifting plan. So you need to be involved such that it is executed properly. We continue. Regulations requirement. Relevant documentation and regulation that apply to lifting activities. These are like some of like extra documentation that still apply to lifting activity. If you want, you can still get them on your own. You read it through. 1. Code of practice for the safe use of cranes. 2. Health and safety at work legislation. PUA, as I told you, PUA 1998, LORA 1998, Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. Yeah, you can get them and read them on your own. All right, we go. The regulations requirement. Still under lifting operations, we focus on company specific documents that apply to lifting activities. 1. Permit to worker system. Before beginning any lifting operation, you need to open a permit to worker system. you need to carry out a thorough risk assessment. What is a risk assessment? In a risk assessment, we will identify the hazard associated with the job we are going to do. We know which risks may come up as a result of the hazards. How can we control the risks? The control measures applied, the necessary PPE required to mitigate those risks. Yeah, that's risk assessment. Toolbox talk, documentation. Always ensure that you have conducted a toolbox before you begin any lifting operations. Now, here, this is like a sample lifting plan or permit to work. Generally, we have the project, location of lifting operation, contractor carrying out the lifting operation, date and time, validity period of lifting operation. It will talk about which time frame are you going to carry out the lifting operation. You can say that our lifting operation will begin at exactly 7:30. Then it is going to end at exactly 5. When it reaches 5, you don't need to exceed. Meaning that the moment you exceed and something happens, you are working beyond the permit. You need to work within your permit, the open permit. Once the permit is expired, if you want to extend, open another permit. Because by you opening another permit, your mind should be open to be able to identify which hazards may come in during this extra time which I'm adding. Details of the load, description of the load you are going to lift, overall dimensions, weight of a load. This depending, like if you are planning a lifting operation. Details of the lifting equipment, the equipment we are going to use, what are the details? But in a permit to work, it will always list down all the hazards associated in that kind of lifting operations. On a permit to work, you need to attach a job safety analysis and a toolbox stock. Procedures for inspection of slings and other lifting tackles. It is the responsibility of the user, you, the banksman, stroke rigger, user departments and i.e. user department and contractors to maintain, examine and ensure the safe operational use of slings. Safe operational use of slings. You don't need to use a webbing sling to lift something sharp. No, you need to be cautious. And other lifting tackle. This procedure is for the user to meet their safety responsibility by controlling procurement, ensuring that proper accessory is being procured or being bought for the work. Registration of the accessory, periodic examination of slings and other lifting tackle. Always ensure that there is a periodic inspection of these lifting accessories and then lifting tackles. The user department shall nominate a focal point to monitor and control the above. The focal point will be designated as competent person. All right, we go. The regulations requirements still under lifting operations. The company standard require lifting equipment to be strong and stable equipment. If you go to pure provision and use of work equipment regulations 1998, in short is called the pure. If you go to pure regulations, Just as I told you about like who is a competent person is a person who has sufficient a person who has been trained, certified, has sufficient skills, has the experience, and is certified to handle a given job or an activity. All right. Equipment covered by the standard will include lifting appliances, lifting tackle, and lifting equipment. Yeah, we go. Now, lifting plan. All right. The purpose of a lifting plan is to facilitate common understanding amongst the lifting team for a safe lifting operation. A typical lifting plan incorporated with permit to work is recommended for use at the workplaces. It addresses some key factors affecting safe lifting operations, such as details of the load. That's what you will find in a lifting plan. You need to get this into your heads. A lifting plan. On the lifting plan, you should find details of the load, details of the lifting equipment stroke lifting gears used, means of communications, personnel involved in the lifting operation. How many people are being involved in the lifting operation? Physical and environmental consideration. The environmental consideration, let me say wind, some dynamic factors, then sequence stroke spatial precautions should be involved in a lifting plan. Due to the magnitude of load to be lifted in offshore oil and gas, it is important to have these elements in a lifting plan. Lifting plans and risk assessment and the information they must contain. Regularly review the lift plan and risk assessment, taking into account external factors involved, the speed at which mechanical lifting incidents can happen. Just as I talked about dynamic factors, those are like some workplace factors, hazards, or that may come in to alter with the safety of the load, uh, through making it to swing, making the it unstable. Yeah, so those are dynamic factors. Always ensure that in the lifting plan there's a risk assessment, and in um, the lifting plan should clearly describe the type of lift. Are you handling a routine lift? Are you handling a simple lift, a complicated lift, or a complex lift? You need to understand those four things. If you don't understand them, give me feedback. You need to know what a routine lift is, what a simple lift is, what a complicated lift is, what a complex lift is. All right. The hazards. Hazards associated with the lifting operations and the appropriate control measures. Now, these are some of the hazards associated with lifting operations. Oh God. Yeah. The first one, complacence through repetition of the lifting operation. You are doing the same job today. Let me at Sinopec, and some other places, you will find like offloading of pipes. You will find where they offload cargo containers. Like it is a company or a group or a lifting team. It has specialized, or it is specifically doing offloading of cargo containers from cargo trucks. It is handling pipes, offloading them, let me say, from trucks. Yeah. So if those people are doing the same job in the morning, in the afternoon, even tomorrow in the morning, in the afternoon, the other day in the morning, in the afternoon. That kind of repetition is called complacence through repetition of a lifting operation. How do you bring up bring countermeasure is by carrying out a toolbox every time you are going to handle that job. You remind yourself of the hazards associated with that job. You need to always take each hazard very seriously, because otherwise things will go wrong. Trying to physically control the load as it is landed. That is a very big hazard. It has killed so many people. It has caused injuries to so many people. Eh? So whenever you are going to lift the load from the ground and lowering it, there are some loads with large surface areas that keeps on swinging. There are some long rods that may rotate. For example, those pipes can keep on rotating. You need to use a tag line. You need to connect a tag line. You be two people, one will control from one side and another from another side. Or if not, use pull sticks. Pull sticks also work as tag lines. You connect a pull stick from one point, you pull, as another has connected a pull stick on the other side. He or she also pulls to control the load such that it settles on the ground safely without crashing any of the surrounding objects or any of your feet. Right? Yeah, I hope you've understood a tagline. A tagline, you can get it into your mind if you have ever seen people handling a lifting operation. A tagline is that kind of a rope used to control the load being lifted from swinging. All right. Now, adverse circumstances affecting plant and machinery stability. Like those adverse circumstances, you are working, you are handling a lifting operation, and then unfortunately a strong wind comes. Unfortunately, heavy rainfall comes. Those are like adverse circumstances that may affect the plant and machinery stability. You need to apply a stop work policy. Always ensure that you stop work immediately. Stop work, wait for the circumstance to cool down before you continue with the lifting operation. If you just continue with the lifting operation, you are exposing the load to dangerous, to the some kind of instability that may even cause the crane to overturn. And once the crane overturns, you may lose the equipment, you may lose your life, you may lose your job, you may lose the contract. So you need to always be so vigilant. New equipment or certified are not always safe. A brand new equipment, let me say mobile crane or a bow shackle, has come on site. It should be inspected by a competent person before it is being put into fast use. One day I went to a certain site to inspect man lifts. The other man lifts were totally brand new, that anyone can just pick it and take it to site to work. Unfortunately, during the thorough examination, I found that some of the tires, almost all the nuts were loose. Now, suppose you just take that man lift on site without having conducted thorough examination, what could have happened? You may, as you are lifting, the pressure will, so you find that the pressure will go into the tires and hence causing it to overturn, or the tire going off and cause the money lift overturn, causing a fatal accident. Damaged ceilings and other accessories. This hazard can be controlled by carrying out a thorough inspection by a competent person. Encroaching personnel, those people who tend to come and enter your work area. This is what you need to do. In your toolbox talk, you need to communicate well. You need to organize a chart. Maybe say lifting operations in progress. No unauthorized personnel. Maybe you say no unauthorized personnel. Lifting operation in progress. You put it in place such that every person who tries to come and encroach on the lifting within the lifting area will see that warning. Now, conflicting activities. You are in one area, but there are like 5 activities taking place. You are offloading pipes from a crane or a truck, but on the sides, some people are constructing the road. On the other side, it is a public highway. What do you do in the lifting plan? Everything should have been put in the lifting plan to show, to indicate those conflicting activities. Or, in short, I usually call them simultaneous operation. Obstructions. Let me say, if you are to transfer the load from point A to point B, in between there is an obstacle, a big obstacle. Still, the lifting plan will have to indicate that there is an obstacle that needs to be observed and considered. Damaged loads, lifting plan still, and load inspection. Dropped objects, you need to barricade the area to prevent people from entering the area where the dropped objects can enter, or you can introduce secondary measures. For example, you are climbing up to work, and when you go up to work, there are some handrails. Those handrails, but I will call those handrails as my primary measure to prevent something from falling. But still, you have to keep it with a net to surround it to prevent steel rods from falling. Whether still the lifting plan should do indicate, and then the stop work policy, just as you have discussed previously. All right. That is our next part. Laws and equipment. Now, banksman. We are going to talk about banksman. In a clear position, a banksman should be in a clear position so that he has an unrestricted view of the load and the crane operator. To give load maneuvering instructions to the crane operator via hand signals or radio. You, a banksman, you should ensure that you are in a clear view of the crane operator and the load you are being the crane is lifting. The crane operator should be able to see all the signals you give to him, and those signals should be standard. They should be easily understood by the crane operator. A banksman, you are responsible for directing the movements of the crane and the load. Only one banksman has the responsibility to give signals during a lifting operation at any given time. Supposing you are 4 people and have been assigned to manage or to carry out a lifting operation, offloading pipes from a cargo truck. You are 4 people, one crane operator, one crane operator, 2 riggers, and you, the banksman. You should always ensure that you have differentiated yourself from the rest. You who is going to give signals, you need to either change the color of your hard hat or the color of your reflector shouldn't be the same as the color of the reflector for your colleagues. You need to differentiate yourself. You need to be official to the crane operator. And the crane operator should only pick signals from you, should work on your signals, right? Are we together? All right. Riggers, slingers, prepare and tie sexual load before hoisting. Act as signalman when the signalman is not available to guide the crane operator. You need to familiarize yourself with general rigging method. Estimate the loads and center of gravity of loads. How do you estimate the center of gravity of loads? We are going to see those things. How do you estimate the rigging methods? Which angle do you need to exceed and which angle don't you need to exceed? You are going to understand these things as we go on. If you look at that image, that's an example. If you can look at the rest, the 3 are putting on reflectors. One of them is not putting on a reflector. So you need to find a way of differentiating yourself from the rest. If you look at those kind of loads they are tying, the angle in between there at the hooking point, always ensure that it doesn't exceed 90 degrees. The maximum is 120, but work within 90 degrees and 0 degrees. You are within the safe parameters. You will be using almost the safety parameter, almost 70% of the safe working load for the slings and other things, keeping other factors constant, keeping other considerations constant, as we are going to see. All right. Riggers and slingers. You should be able to select proper suitable lifting gears for the job. Able to control movements of load when at mid-air. Keep unauthorized personnel away from the lifting zone. Don't allow any unauthorized person to come within the lifting zone. And another thing, don't direct a load over a person. That will be totally wrong, directing a load over a person. No. Always ensure that the load, there is no one under it. Yeah. Use proper lifting gears for the job. It depends on which type of load are you lifting. Is it metallic? What are you using? Look at, we think beyond. If you use wire rope slings, what will happen if those wire rope slings come into contact with that metallic load? What will happen? How are you going to sling that kind of load? So you need to know. Crane operator, you should always be able to maintain communication with the signalman. Check the site is adequately prepared for the crane. Coordinate with the banksman during lifting operation. Understand the lifting plan clearly. Right? Competent person having the required level of competence to plan and supervise the specific lifting and hoisting operation, responsible for the safety and all technical aspects of the lifting and hoisting operation, coordinating and communicating with the lifting team during the lifting operation, ensuring the lifting team is compliant. This is not under yours, even that one. Other personnel who have responsibility for various sites in the area of lifting operation, we have foreman, master, rigger foreman, riggers. You can see those pictures. We continue. Lifting team. Each team member shall attend and participate in the pre-lifting meetings or toolbox talks. Should carry out pre-use inspections of lifting equipment and stop any operation when they are concerned about safety. Right? All right. Common lifting appliances and lifting accessories. Wow, now we are here. All right. By the I may ask you the common lifting appliances and then the lifting accessories or lifting equipment. Under lifting appliances, you have the cranes, the hoist, chain block, winches, forklift truck, pad eyes, chief blocks. Those are under lifting appliances. Lifting accessories, some of them. In my exam, I may ask you, give me 10 lifting appliances. Give me 10 lifting accessories. Give me 10 lifting equipments or cargo carrying units and other things. I tell you, you list them down. You need to be able to give me the things because I'm teaching you and you have been seeing them on site. This is a competency-based training. It is not a training that needs you to cram. You need to understand what you are going to do because this is practical. It is on site. You need to work safely. Under lifting accessories, we have wire rope slings, we have chain slings, webbing slings, we have shackles, we have plate clamps, we have hooks, we have eyeballs, we have turnbuckles, lifting harness, opening wedge sockets or wedge sockets, hoist rings, as you are going to see. Now, lifting equipment, we have offshore containers, we have skids, we have spreader beams, we have drum cages, we have gas cylinder racks, we have cargo netting, we have baskets, we have paper racks, we have fibs, big bags, and then pallets. All right, we continue. Classification of lifts. We are going to see these things. You shouldn't worry. We are going to be looking at it. So by the end of this course, you should be able to know each of these things. In the case you fail to understand any, you have to ask me because I don't want to complete this course when some of you have remained behind. You need to understand everything for your own competence. And after this training, you don't need to just keep your certificate. You need to always ensure that you make more research, you use standards very well. All right. We go. Classification of lifts. We have routine and non-routine lifts. Routine lifting operation. Routine lifting operations may be executed under a basic lifting plan. These plans must clearly define the limitations on the loads, lifting methods, and areas of operation. A risk assessment will be required in each case and authorized prior to the commencement. For example, of those things you can lift, I talked about types of lifting operation, those things contained in the lifting plan. Band when you are lifting, band of rebars when you are offloading, let me say cargo trunk, I-beam, receptacles lift. Now we have non-routine lifting operation. Non-routine will require a more detailed lifting plan. The plan will have to be approved by a person in charge prior to commencement of any lifting operation and any deviation. Any deviation requirement identified from the plan must also get the approval of the person in charge prior to commencement of the lifting operation. For example, a heavy lift. You are lifting something too heavy. Tandem lift, you are lifting using more than one crane, two cranes. A complex lift, you are lifting in a confined space. You are lifting with the under like limited headroom. You are lifting over a live plant or a live equipment. So this is grouped under non-routine lifting operation. Non-routine lifting operations. All right. Yeah. Identification and color code of lifting appliances and accessories. All right. I think for now, let us first end there. We will begin from this point in our next part. Thank you for your time. You can relax, you can move around, you can rest. Yeah.